Daf Kuf Yud Aleph Amar Aleph. Last night was a perfect daf. We finished literally on the last word of Daf Kuf Yud Amar Beis. So today we start on the first word of Kuf Yud Aleph Amar Aleph. Where it says "My Amen." What's Amen? Why are we talking about Amen? Because the Gemara right before said, Rav Meir holds that when a kid says Amen, that's when he gets a chiluk l'olam haba. And because we're talking about Amen, the Gemara says, "My Amen." When you say on a bracha Amen, what are you saying? How do you hear from there that you're Mekabel Yireh Shamayim? So the Gemara says, "I'm Rabbi Chanina." It stands for Kel Melech Ne'eman. And there's a girsa on the side in some of the Gemaras. V'asisatana Emes Melech Ne'eman. Either way, it's the same idea. You're saying that the Rebbeinu Shalom is trustworthy and you believe in him. Okay, Zakta Mar Vayter. Lachein herchiva sh'el nafsha. Therefore, Gehenim widened to its soul, lefara pia levli lachayk, and it dirtied its mouth without chayk. What's this without chayk? Somebody's getting Gehenim over here, and because of without chayk, what's it mean? Amrei Shlakish l'misha meshayra afilu chayk echad. The pasuk is in Yeshaya is talking about somebody who leaves even one chayk that he doesn't do, then he's mamish getting Gehenim. So a person does everything but one thing, he's going to get Gehenim. Rabbi Yechanan said to him, the Rebbeinu Shalom does not appreciate that you should say about Klal Yisrael this. Ella, no, you got to say shot like this. Afilu lo lamad ella chayk echad.
Why is the word chayk?
Yeah, why is chayk? Chayk is Torah.
Chayk. It doesn't mean like
no, like halacha, yeah, no, it doesn't have to be like paraduma. I don't think it has to be something like that.
What?
It doesn't have to be something like paraduma or shatnez. Yeah, no. So Rabbi Yechanan is saying, even if he only learned one chayk and he did that, he still gets olam haba. Pasuk says, it'll be in the whole land, Hashem says, 2 portions will be cut off and die, and the third will be remaining in it. What's this mean? The third will remain in it. So it means that in the time of Mashiach or Olam Haba, there'll be a third of the world will remain, but a third of which part of the world? Amrei Shlakish, Shlishi shel Shem, a third of shame. So Rashi says 2 pshatim over here, but I'll say the first pshat, which is going with our girsa, and he says that the third of this is, we start with the beginning. And what happened? Noach, all people came out from Noach, right? And his family. How many kids did he have? He had 3 kids, Shem and Cham and Yafes, right? The third son of Shem, was our Pachshad. B'nai Shem, Elam v'Ashur v'ar Pachshad v'Lutaram. So a third son of the one of 3 sons of Noach, so that's the third, and then his third son, he had 5 sons, but the third of the 5 was our Pachshad. And then in the children of our Pachshad, who's going to stay around? Makes sense to be Klal Yisrael, right? So Klal Yisrael came out of our Pachshad. So the third of our Pachshad, which is the third of Shem, which is the third of Noach, that'll be remained. Then it comes out that if that means it's a fairly small portion compared to the entire world. It means if you have a lot of Yidden, then some of those Yidden are going to die also because it'll be more than a third of our Pachshad. So the Gemara says, Rish Lakish said, Shlishi shel Shem, it'd be a third of Shem, like we just explained. Rabbi Yechanan said, the Rebbeinu Shalom doesn't like that you're saying this. It doesn't mean Shlishi shel Shem, even a Shlishi shel Noach would go up a generation to our Pachshad. And our Pachshad was a much bigger chelek. So the Yidden were a much smaller percentage of all the descendants of our Pachshad. And therefore, excuse me, and therefore,
anyways, that's what I'm saying. So that Chazal felt that somehow, if you wasn't prosecuting and then doing the deal.
Who was the guy Pachshad? He was so famous?
Yeah, because he was the one. He was on Apachshad. Of course, you heard the name. It's a pasuk. The Arpachshad is Arpachshad was Shelach was Arpachshad's son, and Aver, like Shem to Aver. Aver was Shelach's son, and Aver was Aver's son was Peleg, and then another couple of generations until Avram. Until Avram Avinu. After another couple of generations after that, and then until Avram Avinu. So Avram is Arpachshad was a direct Zayda of Klal Yisrael. So. I said it wrong. It's not our paksha. I made a mistake. I made a mistake because I basically said that Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yechon say the same thing, but it's not. It's not the case. They don't say the same thing. Reish Lakish said what I said. Reish Lakish said that it's a third of our paksha's children. It will be yivaser, and then it's a problem because maybe the yidden will be more than a third, and that means part of the yidden will get killed. Rabbi Yechon was saying no. Shlish l'Noach. Go back a generation and say, and there's 3 sons of Noach, and one of them was Shem. So of all the children of Shem, a third will survive, right? All the descendants of Shem, and the Yidden will not likely they'll be so big that it's going to be, a third of all the children of Shem. And even if they are that big, it'll still be a much smaller percentage of them that'll be nifter than if it'll be by the third of our Pachshad, which is a later generation, so it's more funneled out. It'll be a bigger percentage. So that's Rabbi Yochanan says. Don't say that. Now, the Gemara is saying a few machlokes and similar over here between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan says to Reish Lakish, don't say that the Rebbeinu Shalom won't appreciate it. Next, it's like this: I was your owner, and I took you. We had this pasuk already a couple of blocks back. 1 from a city and 2 from a mishpacha. In other words, that when you have one tzaddik and or one Talmid Chacham in a city, or 1 or 2 Talmid Chacham in a family, Rebbeinu Shalom says, I'll take that person. I'll take the tzaddik. And
kill him?
No, take him. I'll save him. He'll get gula and everything. And then Reish Lakish dvarim kichsavan, like mamish, like it says in the pasuk, pashut pshat. That's what it means. Rabbi Yechon said, "Lenich le'lemarayda amat luhachi." The Rebbe doesn't like this. El echam year mezaka kol year. You have gula. If you have one person of the tzaddik in a city, like by Stoim, right, that'll save the whole city. B'shnayim mishpacha. If you have 2 people, tzaddikim in a family, they'll save Mizak kol mishpacha kula. They'll save the whole mishpacha. Yasser Rav Kana kamei Rav, v'Yasser v'Kamar dvarim kachsavan. Rav Kana was saying, sitting in front of Rav, and he was explaining this pasuk like Reish Lakish. That echad mir shnayim mishpacha means Rebbeinu Shalom will save the 1 from the family, 2 from the family, the 1 from the city, and the rest of them will die. Rav said, the Rebbeinu Shalom doesn't want you to say this. Like we said before from Rabbi Yochanan. Now, the Gemara probably brought this over because he wanted to say the next thing that Rav said, because this was just a carbon copy of Rabbi Yochanan. He saw that Rav Kana was brushing his hair, and he was playing around with his hair at a time that he should have been learning. V'salak v'yasav kamei d'Rav, and he was going. Then he went and sat in front of Rav. What? That's what it sounds like, right? Amrulay. So Rav said to Rav Kana, "V'leisimtza be'eretz chaim, v'leisimatzi be'eretz chaim." You won't be found in the land of Chaim. It sounds like he was saying you won't get Olam Haba. You won't be in Eretz Chaim. Right? You're not gonna make it there. Amrulay. So Rav Kana said to Rav, "Meilut kalaitisli, you're cursing me." Amrulay. So Rav Kana said back, "No, chas v'shalom. Krakamina. I'm telling you, pasuk. Leisimtza Torah b'mishem mechaya atzmei leha. You don't find Torah by somebody who makes himself living on it. We have a famous chazal in the beginning of Parsha Adam Kiyamas Ba'il that Ein Adam right? And over here is the opposite. You don't see the sprach very often, right? But you go and you're chilling, and you're taking everything relaxed, and you're not
combing your hair.
You're combing your hair instead of learning. That's not. You're not going to find Torah. So he's giving a musar, but he was not saying that he shouldn't get a chiluk l'olam haba. Tanya will learn the Rabbi Shmuel Yomer. Rabbi Shmuel says, Nemer, it says in the pasuk, and this I like this because if you didn't notice in your house, you probably don't have much chametz left, right? There's Erev Pesach, so now we have a Gemara about Pesach. Pasuk says, "V'lakachti es in Parashat Ve'era, v'lakachti eschem li'la'am." I'll take you to me for a nation. The Rebbe says, "V'nemer," and says, "Vayter in those psukim ve'vesi eschem," and I'll bring you to Eretz Yisrael. Ma'akash yitziasim mi'Mitzrayim le'viasan la'aretz. It connects. It compares the going out of Mitzrayim to coming to Eretz Yisrael. Ma'biasan la'aretz shnayim misamach riboy. Just like when they came to Eretz Yisrael, there were 2 left over from the 600,000 who had gone out. Right, Yeshua and Kalev were the only ones who were left from the original 600,000. When this is not like the general Midrashim we learn, this is a big chiddush, that when they went out of Mitzrayim, it was 2 out of 600,000. Right?
Your Samson was very small.
What?
Your Samson was very small.
So yeah, I didn't. I looked very quickly in the Maharsh Farshim over here. I didn't find anything, but it sounds to me like it's saying that you only had left 2 from 600,000. That many more were nifter.
Oh, I'm sorry. This guy won't.
Right. So we usually say Chamushim alu b'nei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim, but it sounds like it was over here much more. Rashi says Shemikol samach riba shayim Mitzrayim le'nishtar me'em l'shnayim bilvad. V'oisam shnayim shel samach riboy alu samach revayis, and there's a shan in the Gersa over here. Shiatzu echad mishleishim riboy shoyi b'hem v'ashar meisu kulam mishleishim me'afela. The rest of them died in the 3 days of Afela. Shleyu mitzrayim royin b'maplasn shesral. So the Egyptians shouldn't see the falling. Right, but this sounds like even more than a chamushim. That's what it sounds like from this Gemara. Amar Rava says, we're going to have the same thing by Moshe Mashiach, that many more will die than will survive. Shneimar, like the pasuk says, v'ansa shma, and v'ansa shama, I think the pasuk is. V'ansa shama k'meni re'ah. It will be afflicted. Klal Yisrael will be afflicted over there, like they're impoverished over there, like when it was young, when Klal Yisrael was young. Uchiyam aleisam eretz Mitzrayim. Like the day it went out of Mitzrayim. So when it went out of Mitzrayim, just like it was much reduced numbers, so too by Mashiach comes.
1,000 will be left over. That's it.
That's what it sounds like. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's what I said.
We're going to die before Mashiach comes.
What?
We're going to die before Mashiach comes.
I don't know. Not all of us. Hopefully, none of us.
It says we're going to die before Mashiach comes. Lose people.
That's what it says.
You buy karka now. It's business.
so I like I said, I wanted to look in them. I did look in them first a little over here. I didn't find anything. But when I looked very quickly. I didn't get a chance to look very deeply. Tanya learned in the Bryce. I'm Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yasi. The safer that you guys got me stops like way before here.
Oh, yeah?
It's like a 4 or 5 block he gave shear on, and so this way I started looking at it. It's a very nice stuff. One thing I'll tell you something that stuck with me right at the beginning. He says, remember we had the Gemara about Mashiach. It calls him Bar Nafli. What's Bar Nafli? Yeah. And it says because Zarachmon Yakhlan Asukas Davan and Efalas. That's just because we're talking about the Sefer and we're talking about Gula over here, so it makes sense to think Zarachmon Yakhlan Asukas Davan and Efalas. Right? Why is it called the Sukas Davan and Efalas, the falling? Because when something falls, it always has a connection to where it came from. It fell from here. Right? Something that's here has no shaykhs to there. But if it fell from there to here, then it has shaykhs to there. Even though it fell, even though it went down. Klal Yisrael goes down and down and down and down. Mashiach is still falling from Sukkos David. Mashiach is still connected all the way back. And that's why Klal Yisrael is able to go with Mashiach. When the taka will come time, it's still, he's a Bar Nafli, he can go back all the way up to the top. Is that a good word? That's one of the things he said in that sefer. Okay, and so negay for our Gemara because we're talking about Mashiach over here. Tanya, we learned in a braysa. I'm Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yasi. Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yasi says, "Pam achas nechnasti l'Alexandria shel Mitzrayim." I once went to Alexandria in Egypt. But Sasi Zakin Echad, I met an old man, a Mitzri, an Egyptian. And he said to me, come and I'll show you what my fathers did to your fathers, what the Mitzrim did to the Egyptians. and Mehem Tava B'Yam. Some of them they drowned in the sea. Mehem Hargu B'Charav. Some they were killed with sword. Mehem Machul B'Vinyan, and some of them they stuffed into the building. Now there's and we saw this by Micha. We said that Moshe Rabbeinu saved Micha from being he said to Rebbe Shalom, how can you do this? He said these are going to be Risham Gemurim. And he saved Micha, and he ended up being a big problem for Klal Yisrael. There's just a little gersa on the side from the Yaakov Shemaini. It says, he went and showed him bones and hairs that were embedded in the building.
The pyramids.
Somewhere. So he was able to show. He was able to show the genetic material, the bones. When I was at a yeshiva in Riverdale, Telus Riverdale, and it's a historic building. They live it's an old converted mansion that was built in the 20s or 30s by some rich guy, and they had somebody from one of it's a historical. You're not allowed to build there. It's all sorts of stuff. They had somebody from historical landmark people come down to it. The guy says, "Oh, this came from this and this place in Italy. This the cement that they built the." He says, "Hey, Tachin had to know." He says, "This is the only. Look over here, and these little ridges in the cement. This comes from shells, and these shells are embedded in the cement. And the only place in the world that this cement comes from is this place in Italy."
For that Amazon.
Huh? Yeah.
Jerusalem stones.
Right. So you see that things could be embedded in cement and stone, and you still be able to know what it is. But that's if you go with this gersa on the side. Marsha says something else over here. He says, "Haytachin, how could he show them something? Mehem tova b'yam, how can he show something that happened hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years before?" He says because what's normal to have in a country is you have history books that say what happened. The Kuras Aderis, the Sifrei Melachim, that the royal chronicles that say what happened. So he says, could be that's what he showed him. He showed him the books that said he opened up the scrolls, the papyrus with all the hieroglyphics. Right? If you go to Central Park, there is in Central Park a massive, massive, massive statue called Cleopatra's Needle. Okay? It's this huge, not pyramid, it's like an obelisk, like a tall thing. It's like 60, 70, 80 feet high, I forgot exactly how tall. And it has hieroglyphics written down all the way on the side. They did it down to a particular Egyptian king who said, "I am God," blah, blah, blah. It's a whole, you could read the translation that's written on the side over there. And we made a cheshbon, me and my brother-in-law were there, we made a cheshbon, Kamat not shayach, that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't see this. Because this was in the court of the pharaohs, because it was put together before the Yetzias Mitzrayim. No, it was before Yetzias Mitzrayim. This is the actual thing. It was brought from Egypt. Yeah. The actual thing.
Vandalized yet?
The thing is, it's stone.
So what? They're not going to hold these books.
Next time you're in Central Park in Midtown, okay, it's kedai to go. Just to that. And literally, Moshe Rabbeinu looked at this. Okay, Kamat not Shaykh, he didn't. He was a prince, and this was in the Chatzer, the king's palace. What?
Which part of the park?
It's
a very big chunk of park.
It's big. I don't know well enough, but it's there. It's if you're looking for it, you can't miss it. It's very easy to find. So, the point is that they would write. He was writing on this thing his accomplishments and the things that he did in Egypt. So it's Gans Yitachin that there was a different thing that this Egyptian was able to show, who was this Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yasi, and say this is the record of what my ancestors did to your ancestors. Okay. Valdavar Zen, and this thing that the Egyptians did to the Yidden, then Moshe Rabbeinu got punished. What's going on? Shneimar the pasuk says, Moshe Rabbeinu said to Hashem, "Ami az basi al paro l'davar b'shmecha." From when I came to Paro to speak in your name, Hashem, Heira lamazeh, he did bad to this nation. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem, when Moshe said this to Hashem said, Chaval al da'avdim v'mishtachin. It's a chaval, woe on the people who are lost and are not found. Who is lost? The tzaddikim, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. You're saying, Moshe Rabbeinu, you're not like Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Why? Harikam upam neglesi al Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Kel Shakai. Many times I told Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, I was Kel Shakai, the all-powerful God. And v'lehiru al midaisai. And they were not mahar on my midas. They did not say, hey, can you you really do this? Amruli, and they didn't say Ma Shimcha, what's your name? Like Moshe Rabbeinu said all the way at the beginning, when the Rebbeinu Shem showed himself to Moshe by the sneh, he said Ma Shemecha. They didn't say that to me. Amarti Avram, I said to Avram, go travel all through Eretz Yisrael, I'm going to give it to you. Bikesh Makom, look for a Sarah, and then it came time, he had to bury Sarah, and he couldn't find. And he couldn't find it until he bought it for 400 silver coins. I Rebbeinu said and he didn't have any second thoughts about the Rebbeinu Shalom to say, hey, maybe the Rebbeinu Shalom is not keeping his word. Amarti Yitzchak, I said to Yitzchak, Gur ba'aretz hazayis, live in this land, I'll stay with you, and I'll bench you. And then what happened? Bikshu avada of mayim lishtes. Yitzchak's servants looked for water to drink. V'leimatzu and didn't find. Until they made a riva between the Avimelech's people and his people. It was a whole fight. Rebbeinu Shem said, I'm going to bench you. Live in this land. I'll be with you and I'll bench you. Shneimah, like Pesach says, the shepherds of Gerar fought with the shepherds of Yitzchak. Lamer saying, Lanu Amayim, the water's us. Did Yitzchak complain? No. He didn't second guess me. Amarti liYaakov, I said to Yaakov, the land that you're lying on, I'll give it to you. And then Bikesh Makom L'Ntaya Alai, and he needed a place to plant his tent later on, to pitch his tent. He didn't find that Shekana b'Meiksita. He had to buy it from Meiksita, from the people who lived, the Canaanim who lived over there. He didn't have second thoughts about me, what I'm doing. And the others, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov didn't say to me, Ma Shimcha, what's your name? The Ata Martli, and you, Moshe Rabbeinu, said to me, Ma Shimcha, what's your name? B'tchil at the beginning, right away when I met you. The Achshav, and now Ata Imrli, you're saying, V'hatzli, you're complaining, V'hatzli tzalta samecha. You didn't save your nation. Ata Sirai, now you'll see, Asher Esel Farabim Mechamas Parai, that you'll see what I do with Parai in the fight against the Egyptians, Ataraya. That you're going to see. V'Ataraya b'Mechamas Shloshim V'Echim Lachim. You're not going to come to Eretz Canaan, you're not going to come to Eretz Yisrael and see the fight against the 31 kings of the Canaanim. That's when Moshe was punished. He wasn't able to go in. So that's what the Gemara said, that because of this, what the Rebbeinu Shem did to the Yidden in Mitzrayim, and Moshe complained about it, Moshe was punished that he himself wasn't zeicher to go into Eretz Yisrael. Pasuk says, we learned this by Tanis Sibra, that the Rebbeinu Shem said the Yud Gimel Midas, right? And it says right afterwards, Vayimar Moshe, Vayikad Atzvei Yishtachu. He bowed down to the ground, and he kneeled down to the ground, then he bowed. Mara Moshe, what did Moshe see that he suddenly went and he Vayimar Moshe Vayikad Atzvei Yishtachu? So it's a machlekes. Reb Chanina ben Gamliel, this is Gerson said Reb Chanina ben Gamliel. Amar, he says, Erech HaPayim Ra. He saw that Hashem has a lot of patience. We're going to see in a second what this means. Rabbanan Amri, the Rabbanan say, Emes Ra'ah. He saw the midah of Emes. So one midah in the Yud Gimel Midas is Erech HaPayim, and one midah in the Yud Gimel Midas is Emes, is truth. And Rashi explains what's the difference with truth, because Moshe Rabbeinu was very, very worried that Hashem is truth, and if that's the thing, then if Klal Yisrael does something that is chayiv for the Aveira, the Rebbeinu Shalom is going to come down with Midas Adin on them and destroy them all. So Vayimar Moshe Vayikar Atzvei Yishtachu, when he heard the midah of Emes, he immediately got down and started davening to the Rebbeinu Shalom to have Rachmanas on the Yidden and not to deal with them with Midas Adin. That's the Rabban's pshat. But we're going to see in a second what Reb Chanina ben Gamliel's pshat is, Erech HaPayim, why he says that. Tanya learned in the Brayso, command the Amar Erech HaPayim, like command the Amar, Reb Chanina ben Gamliel, who says Erech HaPayim, that the Rebbeinu Shalom has a lot of patience for people doing averis. Ra, he's the Tanya learned in the Brayso. When Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Shemayim, he came and he found the Rebbeinu Shalom writing Kaviyachol the words Erech HaPayim that are going to be in the Torah. He said to him, Rebbeinu Shalom, the master of the universe, Erech HaPayim l'tzadikim. You should write that Erech HaPayim is for tzadikim, for the righteous people. They're the ones who get the Rebbeinu Shalom's patience. Amar Lai, so the Rebbeinu Shalom said back to Moshe, after Risham, even to Risham I have patience for. Amar Lai, so Moshe Rabbeinu said to Hashem, Risham Yavdu, let the Risham get destroyed. Amar Lai, Hashtachazis. Now you're going to see my demi bailach kishachatu Yisrael. What you're going to ask, you're going to need when Klal Yisrael my demi bailach. What hashtachazis my demi bailach. Now you're going to see what it is that you're going to want. In other words, wait and see. You'll see who's right. Now, what happened? Kishachatu Yisrael, when Klal Yisrael didn't have hair later on, Amar Loi, the Rebbeinu Shalom said to Moshe, "Look at Chamartali," and Moshe Rabbeinu was davening to defend Klal Yisrael, and the Rebbeinu Shalom said to Moshe, "Look at Chamartali, didn't you tell me this? Erech Hapayim l'tzadikim. The patience, my Erech Hapayim should be for tzadikim." Amar Lafanav. So Moshe said back, Rebbeinu Shalom, look at Chamartali. Hey, you said back to me after Hashem, should go to Hashem too. V'aynu d'ksiv, and that's what the pasuk says. V'ati yigla l'koyach Hashem kasher dibarta leimar. And now let the strength of Hashem, like you spoke, should be great, like you said. In other words, that it should be Moshe Rabbeinu saying to Rebbeinu Shalom, it should be like you said that you have Erech Hapayim even for Hashem, not like I said that Erech Hapayim should only be for tzaddikim. Rab Chaga Havasalik V'asal B'darga D'Bi Rab Bar Shila. Rab Chaga was going on the steps by the yeshiva of Rab Bar Shila. Shamei Lahu Yinuki, he heard a child saying, the Amar, who said, Eidesecha Nemnu Oid, your Torah is very what?
Very trustworthy.
Yeah, it's trustworthy. Leveischa Nava Kodesh, to your house is beautiful of holiness. Hashem Hashem is oirech yamim, has lengthy days. What does that mean? It says Hashem is very patient. And v'samach lein, it says to it near it tefillah Moshe v'gomer. This is in Eidesach Ne'eman U'Moed, we say on Shabbos night, or Shabbos morning also. That's Tehillim Tzadik Gimel, and Tefillah Moshe is a couple kapitals before Tehillim Kapitel Tzadik. Amar Shmamina Erech Hapayim Ras. It's Moshe Rabbeinu talking, and he is saying the Veis Chanav HaKodesh Shem L'Erech Yamim. So you see Shmamina Erech Hapayim Ras. You see that Hashem saw the Erech. Moshe saw the Erech Hapayim, and he was Vayikaratz Vayishtachu, and because he was grateful for the Erech Hapayim. Okay. I'm Rabbi Lazar Rabbi Chanina. Rabbi Lazar said name Rabbi Chanina. Asna Kadosh Baruch Hu Yisatara Baruch Kol Tzaddik V'Tzaddik. The Rebbeinu Shalom himself Kaviyachol will be a crown in the head of every tzaddik. Shneim, like the pasuk says, v'yemahu, on that day, Yi Hashem Tzvakas, Hashem the Lord of hosts, will be La Teres Tzvi U'Tzviras Sefara L'Shar Amai, for a crown of Tzvi and a encircling of glory, Tefara's glory, L'Shar Amai, to the remnants of his nation. That's at the beginning, right? It says that by my Torah, the Rebbeinu Shalom said he gave them all to Ksarim, right? And then it was taken away from them after the Egel, right? So here it's saying that he's going to be that the Rebbeinu Shalom himself will be a Kesar, which is different than what it says that they had Ksarim, right? Now, Maila Teres Tzvi L'Tzviras Tefara. So what does this mean? That Teres Tzvi L'Tzviras Tefara. So we're going to learn what the Goin's Gersa. La'Isim Tzivyainai, to those who do his Tzivyainai is in Aramaic is Ratzain. U'Metzapim L'Sefartei, and those who are seeking the Rebbeinu Shalom's glory. So those people, the Rebbeinu Shalom will be a crown for them. Yachalakal, maybe everyone will be like this. We'll have a crown. Tamalemer l'sheramai, limishim mesim atzmik yishirayim. No, this is not talking about Bali Gaiva. This is talking about somebody who makes himself like he's left over. Like he's not a Hashem person. He's a humble person. So those are the people that the Rebbeinu Shalom will make, will be like a crown to. The pasuk says in Yeshaya. This pasuk we just said, the pasuk continues. The next 2-3 pasukim talk about the attributes of who Hashem is going to be like the crown for. So the pasuk continues in the next pasuk, L'ruach mishpat, u'liyeshva mishpat, v'legvura meshivim l'chama shara. That's the pasuk, literally, and for a spirit of judgment to those who sit on judgment, and for strength and return war to the gates. What does this mean? Gemara says, "L'ruach mishpat zeha roides yitzray." This is somebody who rules his yetzer. Roides yitzray means that the Yetzer Hara says, "Do this," and Itaka did it. Right? But now he's doing tshuva. Right? He kicks his Yetzer Hara away and does tshuva. That's a roides yitzray. It's a big madrega. L'yishval mishpat. This is a zehadon din emes lamiti. We had Gemara all the way at the beginning of the Masech to talk about the greatness of somebody who judges a true din for his friend.
Absolute truth.
Emes lamiti, right, to absolute truth. For Gvura, zeha misgaber b'yitzray. This is someone who strengthens his yetzer. Strengthens over his yetzer means that this is, we say at the Kriya Shema Lamita, the Gemara in Bracha says that this is what a person should think when he has the Yetzer Hara come. Means the first thing is he should be yargiz Yetzer Tov al Yetzer Hara. He should anger the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara, or arouse the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara. He should learn Torah, al mishkavchem, say Shema, v'dei musela, remind himself about the Yemamisa. What's this first thing, yargiz adam Yetzer Tov al Yetzer Hara? It means, Rashi explains over here, it means that when the Yetzer Hara comes and says, do this Avera, he doesn't say no, right? He says, I'm doing a mitzvah instead.
So better.
Right, that's Margiz Yetzer Adam, right, that's a Gvura, that's he's Miskaber the Yetzer Tov on the Yetzer Hara. So that's Gvura. Meshiva Melchama Shara, Meshiva Melchama, what's Meshiva Melchama? Says people could handle in the war of Torah. Shara, to the gates. What's the gates? They go early and can stay late. In the Bati Knesiyas Avati Midrashas. These are the people who the Rebbeinu Shalom will be crowned to. Now, the Gemara is going to continue explaining the narration of the Psukim over here. Amr Mitzadin L'fnei Kadosh Baruch Hu. Mitzadin said to Hashem, Rebbeinu Shalom, why are these any better than these? These are getting killed and these are getting saved. These are getting the crown and these are not. Amar Allah, he said, Rebbeinu Shalom said to Mitzadin, the next pasuk in Yeshaya over there, these people who are not getting the crown, they did Averis with the wine, and they wandered away because of the beer. The Goymer, the pasuk continues, a whole bunch about them wandering away. Paku Palilia, and they were Paku Palilia. Ve'im Puka el Gehenim, and Puka means Gehenim, Shnemar Lesia Zeis L'Chala Fuka. Ve'im Palila, and Palila means El Dayanim, the Shnemar of Nasan Beflilim. So they are Dayanim who ended up in Gehenim. They did bad things. So these are the difference between the people who do good things, the people who do bad things. The people who do good things will end up getting the Rebbeinu Shalom himself to be Teres Tzvi Tefara on them. Okay, next Mishnah. That's decent. Anshir Nidachas, we'll go to the halacha for over here for Mishnah. For this Mishnah, Anshir Nidachas inlam chelik le'olam haba. The people of their Nidachas don't have a chelik le'olam haba. Your Nidachas is when most of the city went and worshipped. They were convinced to worship Avodah Zarah. There's a lot of conditions to be chayiv on this.
I need an alcha for that.
Huh?
I need an alcha. Tell me that.
Well, you have to know who an Yer Nidachas is, and it's not so pasha. And if you remember, we had a Gemara way back with the Ben Saramur that said Lahev Lo Nevra. And we had over there Mandi Amar also that said Yer Nidachas also. It can't happen. When we learn this Mishnah, you'll see why that Mandi Amar said that. The conditions that you need are kamat, not shayach. And Yer Nidachas in the B'chelik Bash, never like Pasuk says, Yatsu Anashim B'nei B'al B'Yukirbecha. People who are B'nei B'lial, empty people, went from amongst you, and they convinced the people in their city to serve Avodah Zarah. So it says Yatsu Anashim B'nei B'al B'Yukirbecha. They went out from amongst you. They're not with you. They're not with Klal Yisrael anymore. You go to El Mabah, but they don't go to El Mabah anymore. They don't get killed. The city, it doesn't become Yer Nidachas until the Madichim, the people who convince them to do the Avodah Zarah, are from that city itself. And from that Shevet. They can't be from Shevet Reuven living in a city in Shevet Dan, but they happen to be living there for the last 10 years, and they're missionaries and they convince everybody to do Avodah Zarah. No, they have to be, if they're in Shevet Dan, they have to be living in Shevet Dan. until most of the city gets convinced of Avodah Zarah. It has to be men. It says Yatsa Anashim Bnei Belial, so it has to be men, not women. Just before the Gemara said it has to be. Excuse me. That's because the pasuk says Yatzum Bnei Anashim Bnei Belial Mikrbecha, from amongst you. So that's what it has to be from that city and then Sheva. Now, the Mishnah says, let's say Nashim, women went, very charismatic, missionary lady went, or Ketanim. Sometimes you have these cases by the Goyim, especially where you have, they say if the kid suddenly did a miracle or something like that, and people start worshiping her like a saint, right? So if that's a katan, it's most or it wasn't the right of the city, it was the meat of the city that did this Avodah Zarah. Or that the people who were madichim did not come from the city, they came from a different city, they're visitors in the city. Then everybody who did Avodah Zarah is like a yachid. And since they're a yachid, they need to have 2 edim and hasra to do them. By irni dachas, they don't need hasra. What's the difference between Yechidim and Mir Nidachas? What?
Who wants the people by Nidachas?
We don't have achvanas on them. So if I remember correctly, we said earlier in the Masechta that they won't get Asra. What? The Echad. This is the chumrah that Yechidim individuals have. If it's a whole city, we'll say in a second, the whole city they get saif. But if it's Yechidim, even if it's a bunch of Yechidim, but it's still a miyat of the city, then they'll get skila. And because they got that chumrah de kamisa, the biggest one, therefore their money is saved. Their money does not get confiscated and get burned in the Rechav but if you have a roiv of the city, so then it's an irani dachas, then they get killed with a lesser misa, which is sayif hereg. Therefore, to sort of balance that out, their money gets destroyed. Their yershim won't get their money. Now the Mishnah is going to go through a bunch of psukim from the Parsha of Irani Dachas and explain what those psukim mean. There's a bunch of shenemars here that the Goyin and the Reb Tzal Renish will take out because it's not going on what's before, it's going on what's after it. The pasuk said, the Gemara says the pasuk, then explains. You'll see what I mean in a second. Really in the pasuk it says Hahi l'fi charav. Go hit the people who live in that city l'fi charav. Kill them with sayif. Gemara says it says Yoshvei Yoshvei, the people who dwell in that city, people who are living there right now. Hachameras v'agamelas. Let's say you have a caravan of donkey herders or a caravan of camel herders, and they're going from one place to another, and they ended up hanging in this Ir Hanidachas. They hung around there for a while, and the Mar says Harei Matzila Naisa. They can save it as long as they're there for 30 days. Now they're considered like temporary residents over here. They're Yoshvim Ba, and they can save it. So what happens? Let's say you had 100 people in the city, and 60 of them did Avodah Zarah, and 40 of them did not do Avodah Zarah. They're going to make it in Dachas. But you happen to have 25 donkey and camel herders going through the city, and they couldn't stay there for 30 days. And those did not do the Irani Dachas. So now it becomes, instead of 40 to 60, 40 good, 60 bad, they have 65 good to 60 bad, and that won't be Irani Dachas. And Rashi explains that it goes the other way also, because let's say you have the same scenario, but 40 of them did Avodah Zarah and 60 did not. So you'd say it's not the Irani Dachas. But then 20 Chamarim and Gemalim were passing through, and they lived there for 30 days, and they decided they will do Avodah Zarah also. They're going to be counted to make them all Chayiv Irani Dachas. Why doesn't the Mishnah say this case? Very pashut. Because you have a guy traveling through, even if he's staying there for a month, he's not putting down roots. He's not the guy who's going to be convinced by the people on the soapbox. It's not his town. He doesn't worry about what's going on in the street. So, but if they did, it could go both ways, l'kula and l'chamra. Pasuk says right there in the Mishnah. Hachra Moshe destroyed everything that was in it, and its animals, with livestock, with yicharav, by the sword. From here they said, the nechasim of the tzaddikim, if their nechasim are in the city, then it gets lost because it says kol asher ba, everything that's in it. But shebechutala, but out of it, Platon, the chasima that a tzaddik has out of it will be saved because it says that's kol asher ba, everything that's in it. The things that are not in it won't be destroyed. However, that's only the tzaddikim. Shal Rasham, the Rasham, and the Gemara is going to explain, I think, what the difference is and where the limit is. Shal Rasham, ben shemtecha, ben shemchutzala, harelu oivden. Whether it's the nechasim are in the city or out of the city, the Besdin will go and hunt down all their possessions and destroy them. The going takes that Shnemer here again. What Pasuk says, you should take all the loot, and you should put it, you should gather it inside the Rechava. Rechava is like the town square, the central city, and then the Pasuk says, you should burn and fire the city and everything that's in it, and so on and so forth. The Mishnah says, if it doesn't have a street, it doesn't have a town square, or a central thoroughfare, you make it a rechav. If it was if the road or the town square, the place where they usually gathered, was out of it, then you move it and you say, okay, this is the new town square, and then you go and you destroy the whole city. Like the pasuk says, you should burn it and all the city. I'm sorry, the guy doesn't take it out of here. Where Sal Renishberg takes it out. It's not shenemar. Also, new thing. You should burn and fire the city and all its loot. Burn to Hashem Elkecha. And the pasuk continues. We'll bring it down in a second. It'll be a mound forever. It won't get built again. So on the first part of the pasuk, it says kol shalala, all its loot. So the Mishnah shlalav l'shal shmaim. It's loot, but not the shal that belongs to the Rebbeinu Shalom. The Kanamar from here they said, Hagdesh Shaba Yiftu. The Hagdesh that was found in and around the Dachas. Shal Shalayim is like we're about to say, a Hegdish, the Shal Shalayim. Let's say you have a guy who lives in the area of Dachas and his Magdish a goat, right? Well, the Rebbeinu Shalom gets his goat. Huh?
Doesn't want the goat.
No, the Rebbeinu Shalom gave Magdish a year ago. He's a tzaddik then. The goat's a tzaddik goat. Okay? It's a good goat.
There's a beard.
He has a beard. Very good. And he's going to become a good carbon one day, right? So the Gemara says, if you take the Akesha Shabbat Yiftu, you have to redeem that, and then you burn the goat with the city. Shumas, and if it's Shumas, so that also, though technically it belongs to a Kayin when it gets given to the Kayin, but Yerkavu, you should let it rot. You're not going to burn it. It's a design of the Shumas, but you're going to let it rot because you can't eat it. Ma'aser Sheni v'kisvei HaKodesh, Ma'aser Sheni and holy writings, Sefer Torahs and so on. The gunzu, they should be hidden. You have to put them away. You can't go and you can't eat them or use them. Halal Hashem Elokecha. Pasuk says it'll be burned completely to Hashem. Rav Shimon said, Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem says the following: if you do judgment against the Nidachas, I consider you as I consider it as if you're bringing an oila which is kalal. That's why it says kalal Hashem l'kacha. You bring a carbon oila which is completely burned as an offering to Hashem and the Mizbeach, and I consider it like you're doing that. Don't say, I can't do this is very bad. No, the Rebbeinu says this is a carbon. This is what has to be done. The pasuk continues, "Vayset hel olam," and then the pasuk says, "Lo yibana oid." It'll be nailed forever, and it will never be built anymore. The Gemara says, "Lo yisaseh." On the side it says, "Afilu ginas pardesim." You shouldn't make even gardens and orchards. In other words, say, look, okay, I can't build a city on it. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to landscape it a little. I'll plant some cherry blossom trees. I'll make a nice path through it. It'll be a place to schwitzir, a place for people to hang out in the hot summer sun in Eretz Yisrael. Basically says no. Means you cannot build at all. You can't even make Ginas and Pradesim, which are technically not quote unquote building. Rabbi Kiva says, what does Leisivan Oid mean? You can't go back to the way it was before. It has to be less than what it was before. Ain't a nivnus, it can't be built. But it could be made into gardens and orchards. The pasuk continues, and you should not have anything stick in your hand from the cherem, from what was destroyed or set aside to be destroyed for the Ansher Nidachas. And then the pasuk continues. So Hashem will return, will go back from his anger, and he'll give you rachmanas, he'll give you mercy and be merciful to you, and he'll make you multiply, like you swore, like Hashem swore to your ancestors. So over here, it's saying that when you don't keep in your hand from the cherem, then Hashem's anger will go away. So the Mishnah is Benayik, whenever Hashem are in this world, there is an anger from the Rebbeinu Shalom in the world. When the Risham get killed, get destroyed from the world, the Charayin Af of the Rebbeinu Shalom is taken away from the world. And I think we'll stop here, but as Hashem, we should pick it up tomorrow. Okay? And I know you're not going to be here, Betsy.